The port of Primorsk in the Leningrad region, a key hub for Russian oil exports, has resumed operations following a Ukrainian drone attack, Bloomberg reports. The outlet recalled that as a result of the Ukrainian drone attack on the port of Primorsk, 3 pumping stations transporting oil to Ust-Luga were damaged. Oil shipments at the port itself were temporarily halted. Primorsk hosts Russia's largest oil terminal on the Baltic Sea, from which 970,000 barrels of Urals crude per day were shipped in August. Recall that on the night of September 12, SBU drones struck Russia's largest oil-loading port on the Baltic Sea, Primorsk. Fires broke out at the port and at a pumping station, and oil shipments were suspended. Estimated daily losses to the Russian budget from the halt in exports could reach up to $41 million. Primorsk is a key hub for loading Russia's shadow fleet, which allows the country to bypass international sanctions and sell oil on external markets. Around 60 million tons of oil pass through the port each year, generating approximately $15 billion for Russia. Weekly seaborne shipments of Russian oil in the week ending September 14 averaged 3.18 million barrels per day, 934,000 barrels per day less than in the previous 7 days, according to vessel tracking data compiled by the agency. This is the sharpest drop in shipments since July 2024. Russian oil exports from Primorsk fell to approximately 730,000 barrels per day, and from Novorossiysk to 647,000. Shipments from Ust-Luga halved to approximately 313,000 barrels per day. Bloomberg says that a series of Ukrainian drone attacks have severely damaged Russia's oil exports, cutting Moscow's oil revenues by more than $300 million in a week. In total, 22.26 million barrels were shipped, which is significantly lower than the previous week's figure of 28.79 million barrels. The decline in exports has also had a direct impact on Moscow's revenues, with revenues falling to $1.28 billion from $1.66 billion a week ago. Bloomberg previously reported that drone attacks on oil refineries and port infrastructure could force Russian oil companies to reduce oil production. The destruction of refineries reduces their ability to process crude, and previously, excess barrels were exported. However, under the new conditions, oil storage capacity could quickly become full, forcing them to reduce production.
Russian dictator Vladimir Putin's plans to create a sanitary zone in Sumy Oblast are turning into a disaster for the Russian army. The loss of control over another border village, Alexeyevka, is imminent. This was reported by the Russian Z Resource Northern Channel, which is associated with the Russian armed forces. He was very critical of the command of the Russian armed forces, which continues to send soldiers to certain death in this section of the front, despite the lack of prospects. Alexeyevka will have to be surrendered. It's a matter of time, and a matter of how many people will have to die to realize this. Now the situation is repeating itself exactly like with Kondratovka, which was half encircled and where most of the 30th MSP, fighters from the 41st MSP, 177th OPMP, 810th BRPMP, and others were buried, the channel wrote. He noted the low quality of the Russian military operating in this section of the front. According to him, they are mostly pensioners, captured deserters, alcoholics, and other cream of society. They are useless on the battlefield, and the losses are colossal. At the temporary deployment points, they are constantly guarded by military police. Weapons are issued only before going to the combat mission. 2 magazines. This does not save from regular cases of desertion. Now, units of the 2nd and 3rd Battalions of the 30th MSP will go to the Alexeyevka area with the aim of reinforcing those there and preventing complete encirclement. The Russian Z Resource reported. He doubts that the task will be accomplished. Alexeyevka, where the Russian armed forces found themselves in operational encirclement, will have to be abandoned. I remember Kondratovka and all that horror, with the huge number of dead just on the approach to this village. Forecast: it will be the same now. The personnel, which is not the most combat-ready, will be destroyed in a stupid attempt to stop the inevitable. Why did this Alexeyevka surrender in strategic terms? Why kill the guys? Because they exist, and they are not a pity. By the way, about Kondratovka, there is only one way to it now: by swimming across the reservoir. And in some places you can't see the water under the bodies of our people. Ukrainian drones are racing to see who will be first to shoot down a Russian marine. Severny Canal reported. The Ukrainian-developed Flamingo long-range missile, which Kiev is using to intimidate Russia, is even more interesting internally than everyone could have imagined. According to Ukrainian media reports, the Flamingo missile, which its appearance has caused such a stir despite being a very simple replica of older European designs, will be modernized right on the assembly line and will be on par with the American subsonic Tomahawk cruise missile. Ukrainian experts have even debated this possibility. Some insist that this garage-built design won't be able to match the high-tech capabilities of the US military-industrial complex. Essentially, the Flamingo is a homemade product, which is why it's so difficult to scale up production. Meanwhile, military experts are already predicting that it will be as successful as the Tomahawk. This is truly a very interesting missile. This weapon is a very complex technological solution. It will be expensive if there are no external interfaces, I would say. Judging by what's already evident, it's a low-cost yet high-quality solution. And, of course, delivering a ton of payload to its target is also very important for the Ukrainian armed forces, Union writes, citing a Ukrainian expert. According to experts, what everyone knows about the new product is only the beginning of technological evolution and the development of production capacities. Ukrainian experts point out that due to sanctions, Russia has begun producing many components for its weapons at its own factories, so the Ukrainian defense forces need to increase their strike capabilities on Russian territory. In particular, on its production facilities, we are working to meet the needs of the war. The 150 kilograms of explosives that an attack drone can carry are no longer enough for the Ukrainians. They need more, which is where the idea of a long-range truck capable of delivering almost a ton of warheads comes in. We need to look for something over 500 kilograms here. Our Western partners don't add anything to our portfolio, but they do provide the opportunity to build such solutions. The article states, so the officially released photos of the Flamingo are one thing, but the spare parts inside this missile are much more interesting and high quality than what was shown in reports. While the Flamingo isn't yet comparable to American cruise missiles, it will soon be. The materials will be replaced with composites, and the Ukrainian jet engine will be introduced. All this means new surprises for Russia, because Ukraine will be able to destroy more military targets in Russia with its new missile. That is why panic has already begun in Russia.